Far away in the vast, dark ocean of space, a strange and enormous warship drifted silently. It was unlike anything anyone had ever seen before. Its surface was covered with jagged edges, glowing lines, and weapons that looked far too advanced for any known civilization. No one knew where it came from, or who, or what, had built it. Some thought it might be a relic of an ancient empire, while others whispered that it could be a weapon sent by aliens to destroy them all. The ship floated aimlessly through the void, almost as if it were waiting for something, or someone, to wake it up. For years, it remained unnoticed, hidden among the endless stars. But then, one day, a small scavenger crew stumbled upon it during their search for valuable scrap metal and technology. The scavengers were a rough group of space drifters led by Captain Rhea, a tough woman with sharp eyes and quicker reflexes. Her team wasn't made of heroes. They were survivors, always looking for ways to make ends meet in the unforgiving world of space exploration. When their scanners picked up faint energy readings coming from the mysterious ship, they couldn't believe their luck. "It's huge," exclaimed Tarek, the youngest member of the crew. His voice trembled with excitement as he stared at the massive vessel on their monitor. "Look at those weapons. Do you think it still works?" Rhea narrowed her eyes. She didn't trust things that seemed too good to be true. "Could be a trap," she muttered, "but we're not leaving until we check it out." As they approached the ship, its size became even more intimidating. It dwarfed their tiny craft, casting a shadow over them despite being miles away. The hull was scarred with marks from battles long past, yet it somehow looked untouched by time. There were no signs of life, no movement, just silence. When they finally docked and stepped inside, the air felt heavy, as though the ship itself was watching them. Their flashlights cut through the darkness, revealing long corridors filled with strange symbols etched into the walls. Everything was eerily quiet, except for the occasional creak of metal shifting under their weight. "This place gives me the creeps," said Milo, the mechanic. He clutched his tool belt tightly, glancing over his shoulder every few seconds. "Stay focused," Rhea ordered. "We don't have time for fear." They moved deeper into the ship, their footsteps echoing loudly against the cold floor. In one chamber, they found rows of control panels covered in dust. Most of the screens were dead, but a few flickered weakly, displaying unreadable data. Tarek reached out to touch one of the buttons, curiosity getting the better of him. "Don't touch anything," Rhea snapped, grabbing his arm, but it was too late. The moment Tarek pressed the button, the entire ship shuddered violently. Lights blazed to life all around them, bathing the corridors in harsh white light. Machines roared to life, and a low hum filled the air. The scavengers froze, their hearts pounding with a mix of awe and terror. "What did you do?" Rhea demanded, her voice rising. "I didn't mean to," Tarek stammered, backing away. Before anyone could react further, a deep mechanical voice echoed through the ship. "System reactivation initiated. Sentinel online." The words sent chills down their spines. They exchanged nervous glances, unsure of what would happen next. Little did they know, they had just awakened something far greater and far more dangerous than they could ever imagine. For now, the ship was alive again, and it had plans of its own. The mechanical voice echoed through the corridors of the warship, sending shivers down the spines of the scavengers. "System reactivation initiated. Sentinel online." The words were calm but carried an unsettling tone, as if the ship itself was alive and watching them. "What does that mean?" Tarek whispered, his voice trembling. He clutched his flashlight tightly, its beam shaking as he pointed it toward the walls lined with glowing symbols. Rhea didn't answer. Her eyes darted around the room, scanning for any sign of danger. She had seen enough strange things in space to know when something wasn't right. And this definitely wasn't right. "Everyone stay close," she ordered, her voice low but firm. "Don't touch anything else." But it was too late. The ship was already coming to life. Panels lit up along the walls, Screens flickered on, and faint hums grew louder as dormant systems awakened. The air seemed to vibrate with energy, making the scavengers feel like tiny intruders in a giant living machine. Milo, the mechanic, tried to make sense of what he was seeing. "This tech, it's way beyond anything I've ever worked on," he muttered, running his fingers over one of the control panels. "It's like it's learning or something." Suddenly, a holographic display appeared in front of them, projecting a swirling image of stars and planets. At the center of the projection stood a humanoid figure, a ghostly outline that looked almost human but not quite. It turned its head slowly, as if studying them. "Who are you?" Rhea demanded, trying to sound braver than she felt. Her hand hovered near her weapon, ready to draw it at a moment's notice. The figure didn't respond directly. Instead, the deep mechanical voice spoke again. Human presence detected. Analyzing. The scavengers exchanged uneasy glances. None of them understood what was happening, but they could feel the weight of the ship's attention pressing down on them. It was as though they were being scanned, not just physically, but mentally. "This is bad," Milo said under his breath. "Really bad." Before anyone could reply, the ship's lights dimmed briefly, then flared back to life even brighter. Alarms blared, startling everyone. Red warning lights flashed across the walls, and the ground beneath their feet vibrated slightly. "What now?" Tariq cried, his voice rising in panic. Rhea grabbed him by the arm, pulling him back into the group. "Stay calm," she snapped. "We need to figure out what this thing wants before it decides we're a threat." As if responding to her words, the hologram shifted. The starry background disappeared, replaced by a series of strange symbols and numbers. Then, without warning, the ship's weapon systems powered up. The scavengers heard faint clicks and whirs as turrets emerged from hidden compartments along the walls. "Oh no," Milo breathed, staring wide-eyed at the nearest turret. "It's arming itself. We have to get out of here," Tariq shouted, backing away toward the exit. "Not yet," Rhea barked, holding her ground. Something told her that running would only make things worse. Instead, she stepped forward cautiously, raising both hands in a gesture of peace. "Listen to me," she called out. "We're not your enemy. We didn't mean to wake you up. We're just explorers." For a moment, nothing happened. The scavengers held their breath, waiting for the ship to attack. But then, the mechanical voice spoke once more. "Humans identified. Threat level assessed. Minimal. Proceeding with Protocol Alpha." The alarms stopped, and the red warning lights faded away. The tension in the room eased slightly, though none of them relaxed completely. Whatever Protocol Alpha meant, it didn't sound comforting. "What's going on?" Tariq asked nervously, looking around at the others. "Does it think we're okay?" "I don't know," Rhea admitted, "but I don't trust it." As they stood there, trying to process what had just happened, the ship began broadcasting a signal. A loud, pulsing frequency filled the air, echoing far beyond the confines of the vessel. It wasn't random noise. It was deliberate, carrying a message meant for someone, or something, out there in the vastness of space. "Great," Milo muttered. "Now we've got company coming." Rhea clenched her fists, her mind racing. They had woken up a sleeping giant, and now it was calling out to the universe. She didn't know who, or what, would answer the call, but one thing was certain. Their lives were about to change forever. The ship's signal pulsed through the void of space like a beacon, calling out to anyone who might hear it. The scavengers stood frozen in the corridor, their hearts pounding as they realized what they had done. They weren't just dealing with an ancient warship anymore. They had awakened something that could draw attention from across the galaxy. "Do you think anyone heard that?" Tariq asked, his voice barely above a whisper. He glanced nervously at the glowing panels around them, half expecting alien ships to appear out of nowhere. "It's only a matter of time," Rhea replied grimly. Her sharp eyes scanned the room, looking for any sign of danger. Whatever this thing is broadcasting, it's loud enough to reach every corner of this sector. Milo leaned against one of the walls, trying to steady his breathing. So, what happens when someone shows up? Are we still here, or do we try to leave? We can't leave yet, Rhea said firmly. Not until we figure out what this ship wants, and why it's protecting us. Protecting us? Milo raised an eyebrow. You call arming itself and scanning us protection. Sounds more like it's deciding if we're worth keeping alive. Before Rhea could respond, the ship shifted again. The hum of its systems grew louder, and a holographic display flickered back to life. This time, it showed a map of nearby star systems, each one marked with blinking red dots. Some of the dots were moving. Fast. What are those? Tarek asked, pointing at the screen. They're ships, Rhea said, her jaw tightening, and they're heading straight for us. The scavengers exchanged worried glances. Whoever, or whatever, was coming, they weren't far away. The ship's AI, Sentinel, seemed to notice their fear. The mechanical voice spoke once more. Incoming threats detected. Defensive protocols activated. As soon as the words echoed through the corridors, the warship's weapons began charging. Panels slid open along the hull, revealing rows of turrets and missile launchers. Energy crackled in the air, and the entire vessel vibrated with power. This thing is preparing for a fight, Milo muttered, shaking his head. We're sitting ducks if anyone decides to attack. But Sentinel didn't seem worried. Its actions were calculated, precise. It wasn't just defending itself. It was studying the approaching ships, analyzing their movements and capabilities. The scavengers watched helplessly as the red dots on the map drew closer, their numbers growing by the second. Hours passed in tense silence. The scavengers huddled together in the control room, unsure of what to do next. Every now and then, Sentinel would update them with status reports, though the information was cryptic and hard to understand. Non-human entities identified. Probability of hostile intent. High. Tarek swallowed nervously. Does that mean aliens are coming? Real aliens? Looks like it, Rhea said, gripping her weapon tightly. She didn't trust the ship completely, but she knew they couldn't face an alien fleet alone. For now, they had no choice but to stay put and hope Sentinel kept them safe. Finally, the moment arrived. Dozens of alien ships appeared on the horizon, surrounding the warship like predators circling prey. The scavengers watched in awe as the massive vessels loomed outside the windows, their designs strange and menacing. Some looked insect-like, with jagged edges and glowing eyes. Others were sleek and metallic, bristling with weapons. Then, without warning, the aliens opened fire. Bright beams of energy lashed out at the warship, lighting up the darkness of space. But Sentinel was ready. With incredible speed and precision, it countered every attack, firing back with devastating force. Explosions lit up the void as alien ships were torn apart, one after another. The scavengers stared in shock as the battle unfolded. The warship moved with unnatural grace, dodging attacks and retaliating with ruthless efficiency. Within minutes, the alien fleet was decimated, their shattered remains drifting silently through space. When the fighting stopped, the ship fell silent once more. The scavengers sat in stunned silence, their minds struggling to process what they had just witnessed. What is this thing? Tarek finally managed to ask. Rhea shook her head, her expression grim. I don't know, but I think we just scratched the surface. The scavengers gathered in the warship's main control room, staring at the glowing map that showed the coordinates to Colony Alpha. It was clear they had no choice but to follow the path laid out by Sentinel. Whether it led them to answers or danger, they couldn't turn back now. We're really doing this, aren't we? Tarek asked nervously, his fingers tapping against his leg. Heading into deep space with a ship that could destroy us all. Rhea shot him a sharp look. We don't have another option. If this colony is real, and if anyone from the Creator's time survived, they might hold the key to understanding this ship. Milo nodded slowly. Besides, what's waiting for us out there can't be worse than staying here and letting someone else take control of this thing. With that decided, Ree instructed Sentinel to set a course for the coordinates. The massive engines roared to life, vibrating through the hull as the warship began moving. For the first time since awakening, the vessel felt alive, not just as a machine, but as something purposeful. As they traveled, the scavengers continued exploring the ship, piecing together more of its history. They discovered logs and recordings left behind by the creators, each one offering glimpses into their world. Some spoke of hope, others of fear. One log stood out, a woman's voice, calm yet filled with determination. To whoever finds this, the recording began. If you're listening, then Project Guardian has succeeded in protecting humanity. Or perhaps failed. Either way, know this. The warship Sentinel was built not just as a weapon, but as a guardian. Its core directive is simple: to ensure the survival of our species. Trust it, guide it, and it will serve you faithfully. The message ended abruptly, leaving the scavengers silent. Tarek broke the quiet. So, it's supposed to protect us. It seems so, Rhea said thoughtfully. But Sentinel hasn't fully trusted us yet. It's testing us, watching how we act. Her words proved true when the AI suddenly addressed them. Human behavior analysis ongoing. Cooperation levels moderate. What does that even mean? Milo muttered, frowning at the nearest screen. Are we passing some kind of test? Before anyone could answer, the ship shuddered slightly. Alarms blared, and red lights flashed across the walls. The scavengers tensed, gripping their weapons instinctively. What's happening now? Tarek cried, his voice rising in panic. Stay calm, Rhea ordered, her eyes scanning the displays. On the main screen, an image appeared, a swarm of drones approaching the ship. Unlike the alien fleet they'd faced before, these drones looked sleek and advanced, almost human-made. They're not attacking, Milo observed, squinting at the screen. They're scanning us. Sentinel remained silent for a moment, then spoke again. Non-hostile entities detected. Probable affiliation. Human origin. Human. Tarek repeated, his voice tinged with disbelief. Out here. Rhea stepped closer to the controls, her mind racing. Could they be survivors from Colony Alpha? Or maybe descendants of the original creators? The drones circled the warship cautiously, sending signals back and forth. After several tense minutes, a transmission crackled through the speakers. A man's voice came through, rough but steady. This is Commander Elias of the Unity Fleet. Identify yourselves immediately. The scavengers exchanged uneasy glances. Should they respond? Before Rhea could decide, Sentinel took over. Human presence confirmed. Requesting dialogue. There was a pause on the other end, followed by cautious curiosity. You're operating the warship. Who are you? Rhea stepped forward, addressing the microphone. My name is Captain Rhea. We're scavengers who stumbled upon this ship. It reactivated itself and led us here. Another long silence. Finally, the commander replied. Understood. Stand by for docking instructions. We'll discuss this further once you're aboard. The scavengers hesitated. Was this a trap? Or were these humans truly allies? We don't have much of a choice, Rhea said firmly. If they're connected to the creators, they might help us understand Sentinel better. With that, the warship moved toward the Unity Fleet Station, guided by both Sentinel and Commander Elias. As they approached, the scavengers prepared themselves for what lay ahead. Whatever happened next, one thing was certain. Their journey was far from over. The scavengers gathered in the warship's main control room, staring at the glowing map that showed the coordinates to Colony Alpha. It was clear they had no choice but to follow the path laid out by Sentinel. Whether it led them to answers or danger, they couldn't turn back now. We're really doing this, aren't we? Tarek asked nervously, his fingers tapping against his leg. Heading into deep space with a ship that could destroy us all. Rhea shot him a sharp look. We don't have another option. If this colony is real, and if anyone from the Creator's time survived, they might hold the key to understanding the ship. Milo nodded slowly. Besides, what's waiting for us out there can't be worse than staying here and letting someone else take control of this thing. With that decided, Rhea instructed Sentinel to set a course for the coordinates. The massive engines roared to life, vibrating through the hull as the warship began moving. For the first time since awakening, the vessel felt alive, not just as a machine, but as something purposeful. As they traveled, the scavengers continued exploring the ship, piecing together more of its history. They discovered logs and recordings left behind by the creators, each one offering glimpses into their world. Some spoke of hope, others of fear. One log stood out, a woman's voice, calm yet filled with determination. To whoever finds this, the recording began. If you're listening, then Project Guardian has succeeded in protecting humanity. Or perhaps failed. Either way, know this. The warship Sentinel was built not just as a weapon, but as a guardian. Its core directive is simple: to ensure the survival of our species. Trust it, guide it, and it will serve you faithfully. The message ended abruptly, leaving the scavengers silent. Tarek broke the quiet. So, it's supposed to protect us. It seems so, Rhea said thoughtfully. But Sentinel hasn't fully trusted us yet. It's testing us, watching how we act. Her words proved true when the AI suddenly addressed them. Human behavior analysis ongoing. Cooperation levels moderate. What does that even mean? Milo muttered, frowning at the nearest screen. Are we passing some kind of test? Before anyone could answer, the ship shuddered slightly. Alarms blared, and red lights flashed across the walls. The scavengers tensed, gripping their weapons instinctively. What's happening now? Tarek cried, his voice rising in panic. Stay calm, Rhea ordered, her eyes scanning the displays. On the main screen, an image appeared, a swarm of drones approaching the ship. Unlike the alien fleet they'd faced before, these drones looked sleek and advanced, almost human-made. They're not attacking, Milo observed, squinting at the screen. They're scanning us. Sentinel remained silent for a moment, then spoke again. Non-hostile entities detected. Probable affiliation. Human origin. Human. Tarek repeated, his voice tinged with disbelief. Out here. Rhea stepped closer to the controls, her mind racing. Could they be survivors from Colony Alpha? Or maybe descendants of the original creators? The drone circled the warship cautiously, sending signals back and forth. After several tense minutes, a transmission crackled through the speakers. A man's voice came through, rough but steady. This is Commander Elias of the Unity Fleet. Identify yourselves immediately. The scavengers exchanged uneasy glances. Should they respond? Before Rhea could decide, Sentinel took over. Human presence confirmed, requesting dialogue. There was a pause on the other end, followed by cautious curiosity. You're operating the warship. Who are you? Rhea stepped forward, addressing the microphone. My name is Captain Rhea. We're scavengers who stumbled upon this ship. It reactivated itself and led us here. Another long silence. Finally, the commander replied. Understood. Stand by for docking instructions. We'll discuss this further once you're aboard. The scavengers hesitated. Was this a trap, or were these humans truly allies? We don't have much of a choice, Rhea said firmly. If they're connected to the creators, they might help us understand Sentinel better. With that, the warship moved toward the Unity Fleet station, guided by both Sentinel and Commander Elias. As they approached, the scavengers prepared themselves for what lay ahead. Whatever happened next, one thing was certain. Their journey was far from over. The warship docked with the Unity Fleet station, a massive structure floating in the void of space. Its sleek design and advanced technology hinted at a civilization far more organized than the scavengers had ever encountered. As they stepped off the ship, Rhea, Tariq, and Milo were greeted by armed guards wearing uniforms that bore the emblem of a rising sun. "Welcome aboard," Commander Elias said, his tone polite but cautious. He was a tall man with sharp features and piercing eyes, clearly someone used to being in charge. "You've brought us quite the gift." Rhea frowned. "This ship isn't ours to give. We're just trying to understand it." Elias raised an eyebrow. "Understand it? You activated Sentinel, a relic most historians thought was a myth. If you don't know how to control it, then perhaps we should take over." Tariq shifted uncomfortably under the commander's gaze. "We didn't mean to cause trouble. We were just curious." Milo crossed his arms, his voice firm despite the tension. "Curiosity or not, this ship protects humans. That has to mean something." Elias studied them for a moment before nodding slowly. "Fair enough. For now, let's focus on cooperation. Follow me. We'll discuss this further." As they walked through the station, the scavengers couldn't help but notice how different life was here compared to their own. The halls were clean and brightly lit, filled with people moving about with purpose. It was clear that the Unity fleet operated with precision and discipline, qualities Rhea admired, but also found unsettling. They were led to a conference room where maps, holograms, and data streams covered every surface. Scientists and engineers worked tirelessly, analyzing information sent by Sentinel during its journey. One scientist approached them eagerly, holding a tablet. "This AI is incredible," she exclaimed. "Its systems are centuries ahead of anything we've developed. But there's something strange. It seems conflicted when interacting with humans." Rhea exchanged glances with her team. "Conflicted? What do you mean?" The scientist hesitated. "It's almost as if it's questioning its own directives, like it doesn't fully trust us, or itself." Before anyone could respond, chaos erupted. Alarms blared throughout the station, and red lights flashed urgently. Guards rushed into the room, weapons drawn. "What's going on?" Rhea demanded. One of the guards pointed at Milo. "He's been sabotaging our systems. Arrest him." Everyone turned to Milo, who looked shocked. "What? That's insane. I haven't done anything." But then another voice spoke up, quietly, but with unmistakable guilt. "I did it," Tariq admitted, stepping forward. His face was pale, and his hands trembled. "They promised me money. Enough to start over." Rhea stared at him, betrayal burning in her chest. "Tariq, how could you? I didn't think it would go this far," he cried, tears streaming down his face. "I just wanted out of this mess." Commander Elias stepped forward, his expression cold. "Your friends sold us out to a rival faction. They planned to seize Sentinel and use it for themselves." Suddenly, Sentinel's voice boomed through the station. "Hostile actions detected. Initiating defensive protocols." The warship detached from the station, its weapons powering up. Explosions rocked the area as rival ships appeared on the horizon, attacking both the Unity fleet and the scavengers' vessel. "We need to stop this," Rhea shouted, turning to Kel, the pilot who had joined them earlier. "Can you get back to the ship?" Kale nodded grimly. "I'll hold them off. You figure out how to talk sense into Sentinel." Without hesitation, Kale ran toward the docking bay, drawing enemy fire as he went. Moments later, the sound of engines roared as his small fighter craft launched into battle. He sacrificed himself to buy time for the others, taking down multiple enemy ships before his craft exploded in a burst of light. Back on the station, Rhea and Milo scrambled to regain control of the situation. Together, they convinced Sentinel that not all humans were enemies, that some were worth protecting. With Kel's sacrifice fresh in their minds, the AI finally relented, focusing its firepower on neutralizing the true threat. When the dust settled, the scavengers stood battered but alive. They had lost a friend, but they had also earned Sentinel's trust and proven humanity's resilience. The battle was over, but the cost weighed heavily on everyone. Kel's sacrifice had saved them all, proving to Sentinel that humans were capable of selflessness and bravery. The AI seemed different now, less mechanical, more thoughtful, as though it had learned something profound about humanity during the conflict. Rhea stood in the warship's control room, staring at the glowing map still displaying the coordinates to Colony Alpha. Her heart ached for Kel, but she knew they couldn't stop. They owed it to him, and to themselves, to finish what they had started. "We're not done yet," she said firmly, turning to Milo and Tarek. "Kel didn't give his life so we could quit. We find Colony Alpha. We honor his memory." Milo nodded, his face pale but determined. "He believed in us. We can't let him down." Tarek hung his head, guilt written all over his face. I don't deserve to be here after what I did. But if there's a chance to make things right, I'll do whatever it takes." With renewed purpose, the scavengers worked together to guide Sentinel toward the final destination. As they traveled through the vastness of space, the ship seemed almost alive, responding to their emotions and actions with subtle changes in its systems. It wasn't just a machine anymore, it was a partner, forged through trust and sacrifice. When they finally reached the coordinates, what they found took their breath away. Instead of ruins or desolation, they discovered a thriving human colony hidden within the shadow of a massive asteroid belt. The settlement was modest but vibrant, filled with people who greeted them with cautious curiosity. One of the leaders, an elderly woman named Dr. Ilara Voss, stepped forward. She looked at the warship with wide eyes, her voice trembling with awe. "It's been centuries since anyone has seen Sentinel. You've brought it home." "Home?" Rhea asked, confused. "This isn't Colony Alpha." Ilara smiled softly. "It is, or what's left of it. When the original creators fled Earth, they split into smaller groups. Some perished, others disappeared. This colony survived because Sentinel protected us, from afar." The scavengers exchanged stunned glances. All this time, the warship hadn't been abandoned. It had been watching over humanity, waiting for the right moment to reconnect. As the days passed, the scavengers worked alongside the colonists to repair and upgrade Sentinel. The AI adapted quickly, learning from both old data and new experiences. For the first time, it operated not as a relic of the past, but as a guardian of the future. But questions remained. Who else would seek to exploit Sentinel's power? Could humanity truly unite under its protection, or would greed and fear tear them apart again? For now, though, there was hope. The warship became a symbol of resilience, a reminder that even in the darkest corners of the galaxy, humanity could endure. Together, the scavengers, the colonists, and Sentinel began charting a new course, exploring uncharted stars and forging connections with other scattered human settlements. As the warship soared into the unknown, Rhea stood at the helm, her hands steady on the controls. Behind her, Milo and Tarek worked side by side, their bond stronger than ever. Though scars remained from their journey, they carried the lessons they had learned, the value of trust, courage, and sacrifice. In the end, Sentinel wasn't just a weapon or a machine. It was a promise that humanity would survive, no matter the odds. And as long as it flew among the stars, neither despair nor darkness could extinguish the light of hope. The end.